Jackson Millan, the Wealth Mentor.
And Sam Panetta.
And we're here for another episode of Ask Aureus Anything, our weekly live Q&A, where we answer your questions. Today's going to be a little bit different, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah, we're from now on we're going to be 2 minutes late for every single episode. That's I really like that because I'm late for everything. So that's going to be something we do from now on. So you're all very welcome.
Yep. That's an initiative that we've done just for you. Now, what we're going to be doing differently is that we didn't want to just answer questions because we found that there was lots of questions that were continuing to come week in, week out. We wanted to shake things up a little bit. We got some great feedback that all of you enjoy our banter and lunacy. So we wanted to share a little bit of our commentary on some current events, have a bit of a conversation, share our 2 cents, and of course get your opinion. So that can be thrown into the mixing pot of our lunacy.
Look, it could get a little bit perky with Jackson and I throwing opinions around. I try to stay away from voicing my opinions where I don't need to. But fighting tooth and nail, we still ended up doing it. So that's how business partners work. You just do whatever you have to do.
And I did think of this about 15 minutes ago. So
yeah, that's typically about everything that Jackson does. He's thought about it.
That's well prepared. That's well prepared for me.
He's lucky he didn't think about it now as we're live. But look, it's going to be different in any case. They're topical things. They're things that are in the news. They're things that affect Australians. And I guess it's things that people are talking about. So whilst the questions are great, we still got a number of questions over the week. We're getting bombarded with questions. We're running out of space to answer them all every single week. We wanted to have more of a conversation, more of a discussion with the people who were watching live. So I guess that's where the idea came from.
Yep, and it is a very important Ask Aureus Anything. This is our 30th episode.
Our 30th episode. That's a milestone.
It's older than me, Sam.
Yeah, it's older than me too by 1 week.
By 1 week.
It's older than me by 1 week.
Fantastic.
So
I'm glad we can celebrate this as your birthday Ask Aureus Anything. Yeah, we're not going to be doing the 31st one on your birthday, are we?
No. Oh, you will.
We will.
I'm not going to be here. I'm trying to get Jackson, Sal, and Gary in a room together. Someone's going to have to share a microphone, but I think the boys will be able to work it out.
We'll
I have
work something
belief in them.
All right. So what we're urging you to do, please share your comments. We'd really love to get your feedback on this new format. Give us your ideas. Share your opinion. If you're not going to share your opinion, share the video. You like that? I thought of that just then. So if you share it, we can get more impact, we can get more reach, we can get more people involved in the conversation, and hopefully celebrate a little bit of good old-fashioned fun.
Yeah, look, and I think we're giving away a lot of good value too here. You know what I mean? A lot of the stuff that you can learn from watching these Ask Aureus Anything episodes, you'd have to pay actually good money for someone to teach you in a one-on-one capacity. So to be able to sit here on any given Wednesday and essentially ask us anything financial in the world, ring up your account and he's going to send you a bill for that. So you need to take advantage of it. If you're not going to take advantage of it, share the love around and let's someone else take advantage of it.
100%. All right, so before we dive in, general advice warning, everything we talk about is general in nature, isn't tailored to your personal situation. So if you do want to make the most of the information that you learn, please make sure you consult a professional before acting on anything that we talk about.
That's it. So let's get stuck into it. For anyone who's watching, if you have anything to say or if you have any questions, jump in, join the conversation. Don't just sit there. Shane Black, I'm talking to you. So that's how we do things here. Let's do it.
Beautiful. So what is the first current event, Sam?
All right. So the first the title is Global Economy is Facing a Perfect Storm.
That sounds very juicy, Sam. Let's.
That's horrendous.
Pray tell.
All right. So I'm not going to read the article. It's already too long for me. I read the title. I don't like any of that stuff. I don't like it when people say that there's a perfect storm or there's going to be a collapse or there's going to be any sort of event. The thing is, today it's the best time in human history. Yes, we're going to have ups and downs, but over time, the economy will continue to prosper. Our quality of life will continue to go up. You have to think that the middle class today has a quality of life far superior to the upper class even 50 years ago. And even the poorest people today in Australia have a quality of life far superior to someone 500 years ago. So humans and ingenuity, they're going to continue pushing, and they're going to keep growing. So I don't know. I don't like these.
Yeah, well, look, I'm with you, Sam. I think that every economist has to have an opinion. Ultimately, people who are working in, I guess, having an opinion, particularly when it's a financial opinion, you can't really sit on the fence. Economists have to take a punt, even if they turn out to be wrong. Now, there's always going to be things that lead people to believe that everything's going to fall to chaos. They believe that the world's going to fall down, the financial system's going to go to shit, we're going to end up in another financial crisis, and look, we don't know. We don't know what's around the corner. What we've been able to understand is that as a race, we've been able to continue to evolve, improve, and learn from a lot of the mistakes that we've made in the past. A good example of this is off the back of the global financial crisis, which came off an irresponsible lending environment in the US, where essentially consumers were able to get finance above and beyond their means. There was very little recourse, and they could essentially hand back the keys of their property when they essentially didn't want to manage that repayment anymore. And because of this, essentially the housing market collapsed. People who shouldn't have been lent money in the first place were being lent money, and all of this stuff was really what made the financial system collapse. It was just a compounding effect and a perfect storm, which is the same title being used in this this article, that led to this huge financial crisis, the most significant one for most of our lifetimes, for our generation anyway. Now, what we learned from that is that people can't have, the economy and financial services businesses can't lend like that anymore. They need to understand who they're lending to. They need to have responsibility to those lenders to ensure that they're not lending them anything above and beyond their ability to repay. And over the past decade, we've seen the financial system continue to grow and evolve. And although from a financial standpoint, people are essentially, it's harder for them to borrow money. We have people complaining every single day about their inability to borrow as much money as they once could. It is for the better of all of us. It's to avoid another financial crisis occurring. Now, of course, there's always going to be new things that come up, right, Sam?
Look, there's always going to be trouble, but like even in the global financial crisis, there was a lot of losers, but there was a lot of winners. There was a lot of people that made, millions of billions in some cases, betting against, the things that people were betting for. And so all that means to me is it always comes down to the individual. Sometimes some people are going to do well, some people aren't going to do well. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it always will be. So instead of, being swayed by these really sexy headlines that the global economy is facing a perfect storm, why don't you concentrate on your own backyard, concentrate on your own issues that you're facing, and make yourself better, and I'm guarantee you will outweather any sort of perfect storm that comes from the greater economy.
Yeah, look, let's dive into this in a bit more detail. I think people are interested, right? The media is there to create hype. They sell papers from scaring people, right? You
Correct.
see a sexy headline, so like something like that. You go, oh shit, we're all gonna die, and you buy the paper, and then all of a sudden it isn't as scary as what you initially thought. Now, what we've seen since the global financial crisis is a shift of debt, right, Sam? There's been essentially a shift of debt, that there was a tremendous amount of debt prior to the global financial crisis. And then now we've got an even more tremendous amount of debt, particularly at a government level, right?
Yeah, but money's not real. Do you know what I mean? If the government controls money and they're in debt and they're in debt to themselves, and they can turn on a tap, or not even these days, they just put more zeros
on a printing machine.
They don't even have to print it now. They just put more zeros into a bank account. Is it real? Like, would someone let themselves default? Do you know what I mean? So it's one of those things. Look, I can't ignore this any longer. DeVito. He said anything. I bet Thickness there is the top. What's up, Thickness? And then Nonna says hello, Nonna. And then it says, hey, Thickness, does he take it real good?
I don't know who DeVito is.
I don't know, but you're going to be the first person that's ever banned from Ask or Receive.
You're a bit weird. I'm sorry. You're a special creature, Davida. I wish you all the best. But you're a bigger lunatic than us.
We can't have that.
We can't have
we
that.
cannot
We're
have
the lunatics
a bigger
around here.
lunatic than us here on the page. I really don't even understand.
I don't know.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Are you alluding to our beards? Is it our thick attitudes, our accent maybe?
Davida. I don't know.
I'm deeply concerned.
I'm concerned for you, Davida. Davida loves it.
This is great. I love this new format. We're getting people to participate.
Where did you come from, Davida? You have to tell us more about yourself. You can't just ghost onto our Ask Aureus anything and talk about
thickness.
Loving the thickness and then and just disappearing.
Oh, that's the best. All right.
Anyway,
in any case, there's a big key consideration. Sam hits on an important point before we went down the abyss of thickness. If you've got debt to yourself, you're not going to go and send yourself into default, right? You're the person who's lending the money, you're the person who's borrowing, you're basically all parties. But there are countries out there that have significant amount of debt to external parties, right?
Correct, and that's where the trouble is.
This is where the trouble is. And this has been a lot of the issues that have occurred in Europe, as an example. There's lots of countries like your Greece, your Italys, your Spains, your Portugals, who are in debt to a lot of places around the European Union, and they just don't have the capacity to repay. And it's in this perfect storm where essentially the big countries that are contributing most of the gross domestic profit, the GDP, like Germany, that are really wearing the brunt of all of these issues.
Yeah, and it's a funny thing, mate. So I think it comes back, a lot of it, in my opinion, comes back to population growth. So and a country essentially needs two things. They need to perform well economically. They need the population to grow up, and they need the GDP to go up, so the value of every person in that population. And when you look at Europe and the European Union, essentially it's shrinking. So it's not even replacing the people that are dying with new births. And there's a little bit of immigration going on, but not a great deal. You look at other countries in Asia, and you look at other countries, your Anglo countries like Australia, Canada, America, and England, things like that. And we have good population growth naturally, and we have massive immigration, and that's what's been able to continue to push those economies forward for hundreds of years, because they've continued to pile up. And these people are coming, from Africa, or they're coming from Europe, and they're moving to these Anglo countries, and that's what's causing a lot of the effect of European weakness and strength in Anglo
yeah, it makes sense. But look, there is always things that are kind of looming in the horizon. You never know what impact there may be at a global level, and whether that does impact us here, because we've got a really good quality of life. We've all got it pretty good. We really haven't had a significant financial crisis that's actually impacted us since the Great Depression.
It's true.
So anything could happen, right?
Look, anything can happen. Anything could happen. It's Look, it's one of those things, like, ever since the global financial crisis, these commentators who have written global economies facing a perfect storm, I've heard that for 10 years. The financial crisis was 10 years ago now. And all the way up, as stocks have done well, property prices have gone up, businesses have done well, people have gotten rich. There's been a lot of naysayers saying, this is over, this is going to crash, this is going to crash. One day it will. I guarantee.
They're going to pretend to be like Nostradamus.
Correct.
Like, I saw it coming.
I've seen it coming for 10 years out on the horizon. But the thing is, for those, for that, even the GFC, it only lasted, 12 months, 18 months, and then everything got picked up and got exciting again, and everything went back to normal. Are you going to ignore the 10 or the 20 years that you've got there to make heaps of wealth
in fear of that one or 2 years?
You're not. Take it, cop it. One day someone's going to punch you in the face, but it's not today. So keep working, keep going, and you're going to.
Don't wear that mouth guard every day.
Don't wear that mouth guard. Play the game. Get out there on the field. You're going to be all right. One day there'll be a perfect storm, and then you know what? It'll clear up.
That's it. All right. We'd really appreciate your opinion. Share your insights. Is there anything that concerns you about the global economy? Are you kind of sitting on your hands waiting for that perfect storm to come, or are you really grabbing life by the what's it and giving it your all?
There you go. That? So I like that. I love it.
Share your insights. We'd really appreciate it.
So let us know what you guys think. I'd love to have a conversation with you guys on these topics.
Now, we've got something that's a little bit sexier, Sam.
Look, it's a bit, how would I describe it? Controversial, this
It
comment.
is. Look, I think that there's always been that saying, money doesn't buy you happiness. And I think that we've spoken to a few people that have been very controversial in their rebuttal to that, saying that's BS. And there's been a study that's been done, and the title of the article is that money really does lead to a more satisfying life. And I think it's important that we understand the terminology here of the difference between satisfying and happiness, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I believe that. I think that money provides you with opportunity. Although it may not buy you happiness itself, it buys you opportunity. It gives you the ability to be immersed in a variety of different environments. And ultimately, that can allow you to have more satisfaction, to be happier, and to be in a position where you can live your life to the fullest.
Yeah, it's I've actually done a lot of research into this topic, and it's actually a very interesting topic. So essentially, the way I see it is there's things that money can improve and make your life happier. There's certain parts, and there's other parts of your life where it just can't, where it has no impact, essentially. And then there's other parts where people get confused, whether it's money bringing them happiness, or whether it was something else that was bringing them happiness. So let me give you guys a couple of examples, right? So my wife and I, when we had our daughter, she's 3 months old, we done IVF, right? And IVF is expensive. Now, if we didn't have the money to do the IVF, you would have been really sad, right? Like that's enough to make you sad.
100%.
So we had the money to do it, and it worked. So in that case, obviously the happiness came from conceiving a baby, but we had the money to do it, and so did money provide the happiness there? It's a blurry line.
Yeah, it was a catalyst.
You know what I mean? It was a catalyst. And then look at it on the flip side. Let's say when you're doing well at business, right? You feel good about yourself. Now, do you feel good about yourself because you're delivering phenomenal results, or do you feel good about yourself because the business is making money?
Well, it's both.
Well, it's both. That's what I mean.
It should be both.
It should be both, but they're blurry lines. It's not the money itself. It's this. It's the success you're achieving. So it's one of these things. When people have strong opinions one way or the other, I'm a little bit concerned. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's right. Look, I've seen people who have not much money and have been extremely happy. And I've seen people who have a tremendous amount of money be completely miserable, and do everything in their power to make everybody else's life miserable as a result.
Correct.
But I think that ultimately you need to define what you want in life. What is your driving force? And what is the currency that you need to exchange to allow you to create that life for yourself? And there are only two currencies in this world. There is time and there is money. So you need to be able to invest one or the other. Now, some people have a lot of money, but they're investing all of their time in pursuit of it and therefore are miserable. And there's people that have essentially all of the money in the world, but essentially they don't have the time to spend. It's this constant balancing act of the two commodities. So you need to define what it is you want, and ultimately utilize and exchange that currency to be able to create that satisfaction. And for most people, their satisfaction does come at some monetary price. Let's face it.
No, correct.
We're
100%.
in a country where it's expensive to live. Like you go out to dinner these days, you spend $100, $150.
Yeah.
If you drink, even more. And if you want to drive a nice car, you want to go on a nice holiday, you've got to spend the bucks to do it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be happier than the next person, but it just comes down to your ambition.
I think so, mate. I think a lot of people confuse what money is. Money's just a tool. It's a hammer or a screwdriver that you use to get the job done. And essentially, the more money you have, the more tools or the more means you have to get whatever job done that you want. Now, some people are doing the wrong job. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're earning good money and then gambling a lot or drinking a lot, and you're using that money to fund I guess lifestyle factors which would make you sad, then the more money that you pour into it, the worse your life's going to get.
But that's typically a deeper problem, right? And look, I know from first-hand experience, we have a long history of alcoholism in our family, and I decided 3 years ago I was never going to drink again. because I never wanted to be in that situation where I continued to abuse alcohol to the point where it ruined my life.
Yeah, but do you think, right, like let's say someone who's got an alcohol problem or a drug problem or a gambling problem, something like that, if they came into a $5 million inheritance, let's say.
They'd do nothing good with it, I'd say.
They'd
ruin it.
You'd ruin it, right?
100%.
But they'd make themselves worse in the process.
Definitely.
So more money in that scenario does not make you happy. It only makes it worse.
You need to have a base level of happiness and fulfillment to start off with, and money will compound whatever that situation is.
Yeah.
And you taught me something that I didn't really think about it in the past. That you basically said that there was a certain level of wealth where essentially more money is not going to make any significant impact to your life.
Correct.
And it took me a while to think about it, and I go, really, do I agree with that? And I do now. Because when you think about it, right, let's say you've got $1 million in the bank. You might drive a nice car. If you're in Sydney, you're not going to have enough to buy a house.
Buy a two-bedder in DY.
You buy a two-bedder in DY. You're doing okay. If you've got $100 million in the bank, well, okay, what type of house are you going to be in? You're going to have a much bigger house. You're going to drive a nicer car. You're going to buy a better steak. It's going to have a higher marble score. You're going to drink a more expensive bottle of wine. You're going to go to a more expensive restaurant. Everything just increases relative. You still got very much the same experiences. The difference may be that you've got the financial freedom to choose whether or not you have to work anymore. But there is a point in which your money just can't really do much more for you.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. It's it's like when you buy your first home, right? Let's say you buy a 2-bedroom unit, and then you upgrade, I don't know, to a 3-bedroom unit and make you happier a little bit. So let's say you've got a big 6-bedroom house, and it's a really nice house. And then you go and you buy a 7-bedroom house. That's extra house. It's a little bit bigger.
You're just going to fill it with shit, right?
It's not going to make you any happier.
Nah.
You know what I mean? So it's got to be in line with what you're trying to achieve in life. And one of the biggest things that's come about really in our generation is that people are using money more today to accumulate experiences rather than to accumulate shit, right? So just, people in the past associated wealth with having a lot of stuff like nicer cars or a better rug or a bigger TV, all that sort of jazz. But today, people are, they're going on holidays, they're doing, life experience style things, eating different foods that they've never had before. And that, a study has been proven, is actually a much better way to use money to make you happier than by accumulating possessions.
I agree. Yeah. What do you guys think? Share your insights. Do you think that money leads to a more satisfying life? We'd appreciate you sharing your insights and continue the conversation. Whilst we're waiting for that, let's go on to the next current event. This is a little bit of a controversial one.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't see this here. I would have deleted it.
You would have.
All right. So we're going to start talking, but if you guys have any comments from the last couple of topics that we've been talking about, chuck it in there.
Sam will love any excuse not to talk about
any
this
excuse.
subject.
Even if you want to talk about this particular subject, I'll talk about it. So,
Davida, you can start talking about
come on, Davida. How thick is it? So, the topic, the article is Australian political outlook and the impact it might have on small business. Fuck. I hate talking about politics. I don't even know our Prime Minister's name. I don't know what his name is, this new bloke. Where'd he come from? What was he doing before? Why is he here? I don't know. I ignore everything political. I ignore it. Yes, it does affect us, but the impact it can have on your life is maybe like a 1%. The impact your own actions can have on your own life is like 99%. So I don't hate that people pay attention to politics. It's when people think that political sway has a larger impact on their life than they do. In some countries, that's true. Okay, in countries that are unstable, that's true. In Australia, it doesn't matter which bloke or Sheila is running the joint. As you can see, we've had like 47 prime ministers in the past 2 months. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The ship goes on. The ship goes on. So Fuck,
Look,
politics.
Sam, look, I know that you don't care about this stuff. And look, to be honest, I'd probably turn up one more notch. I care a little bit. I care a little bit. I don't care a lot. I do believe that that we've got very two centralised parties. We don't really have left and right-wing parties. So therefore, as Sam has rightly said, a change in political party or a change in a leader in our country does not have a significant and profound impact on our lives. In saying that, there are some very historical trends that we've seen through our Labor and Liberal parties, being that the two primary parties in Australia, and the way that they run the country. And typically what we've seen is that Liberal parties are much kinder to small business, are trying to accumulate cash back into the country's bank account, and helps us get to a point of surplus, which is where we really want to be. One of the key things that we've been able to see, and one of the main reasons why we're able to endure the global financial crisis relatively unscathed, is that we had a substantial amount of cash on the balance sheet, and it allowed the Labor government at that time to spend a lot of it. And implement stimulus policies. Good old Kevin 07. I still remember the couple of grand that he put into our bank accounts back then.
What did you do? What did you do with the money?
I don't want to talk about that, Sam.
Come on, mate. What did you do? What did you do?
I may or may not have gone and partied and spent it on alcohol and night clubbing at the time.
I love it. Exactly what he wanted.
Mate, that's exactly what Kevin 07 wanted.
Good on him.
So thank you, Kevin 07. My past self
loved it. Loved it more than DeVito.
Exactly right. So in saying that, the state of the economy at the moment is that we're in a pretty substantial deficit. Compared to our peers, not so bad. But because Labor governments have typically spent all of our cash and haven't been kind to small business, I am not looking forward to a Labor government coming into power. And it's likely going to be the case, given the festival in the Liberal Party that we've experienced over the last couple of years, with the overthrowings and the internal conflict that's existed. The Australian public is likely going to lose all confidence and change their vote to give the other party a crack. Look, let's wait and see what happens. As Sam rightly said, it is 1%. It is not going to have a significant impact on your life. Just stick to what you do. The rules may change. The Labor Party may remove negative gearing. They might do stuff that are going to be annoying. We just need to adapt. Understand what the changes are, adapt to it, continue to survive and thrive.
Yeah, there's so many more things that are more important to how well you achieve in life than what the government does. You know, how well you run your business, how well you manage your cash flow and you save money, how much you invest. You know, if you're PAYG, how, you know, what you study, what industry you're in, you know, how far you push that. I could sit here and literally name 100 factors that you have that is in your control, that is going to contribute significantly more to your lifestyle over the next 100 years than what any government can ever do.
100%.
Yeah.
We'd appreciate your views. Come on, share your comments, share your opinions, and we'd love to have a bit of a conversation about it. So make sure that you get involved.
All right.
Next one.
So this one, I
actually care a lot about.
This one I care a lot about as well. So the title here is The Drought and Government Initiatives. We've all heard about the drought and the farmers, that they're struggling. I hate to see that. Everyone loves farmers. I'm no different. Jackson's no different. I don't know much about the government incentives.
Yeah.
So I can't comment a lot about it. I'm hoping you know a little bit about it.
I do, yeah. So basically, this is one of the main issues that happened with everyone turning on Malcolm Turnbull. He did come up with a stimulus package. I'm sure he wasn't the one that architected the solution, but he was the one that signed off on it and was basically the poster boy for the initiative. The initiative was next to nothing. It was like $16,000 or $20,000 over 2 installments, one now, and I believe the next one wasn't due until March or something like that. Now, in the grand scheme of things, as a farmer that's doing it tough, you're running out of water, you're running out of feed, you're nearly at the point where you've got to put down your livestock, and your entire life is going to be overthrown and overturned. Further to that, farmers as a whole get treated like crap by the big food chains. Your Woolworths and Coles constantly negotiating on price. I saw a video the other day of this poor dairy farmer basically just kind of doing a video on Facebook, just basically saying the conditions, the amount of money that he gets for all of his hard work, and basically how the big supermarkets drive him down in price where he just can't even make a buck. And it's really, really sad. So they're getting it from both ends. Now, I believe that the government isn't doing enough to be able to support the farmers. And once again, as Sam said, the government, if they can only have a 1% impact in your life, that happens in good and also bad ways. So they're only going to be contributing 1% of value when you're in trouble. So you need to look at ways that you can make an impact. If this is stuff that you care about, try and find a way to make a difference. I've seen people contributing feed and water and all these types of things to farmers. I'm sure there's plenty of charitable organisations that you can contribute to that can actually make a difference. It's just one of those things we just all got to pitch in.
Yeah, if anyone who's watching knows a little bit about this, feel free to put your comments there, put your thoughts there. I'd love to know more about it. My thoughts are like, is there a way? Because you can't stop droughts, right? No. Droughts happen. That's nature. Is there a way that you can take water, into these farming regions for constant, like long-term? I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but that would be a more long-term fix. 20 grand is not going to fix the problem.
Mate, no.
But I don't know. Is there like a scientific way of getting water to these regions? Not today. It might take 10 years. It might take 15 years, but it'll make it better in the future.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's a logistical nightmare. We're in an interesting country, and a lot of the agricultural land, particularly where you're raising livestock, it's so disconnected and so vast land. It's very, very difficult for logistics to be able to deliver water there. There's just so many places. They're so spread apart. But I do know that from my heritage, my old man was Chilean, and last time I went back to Chile, my uncle was telling me about this initiative. Now, essentially, there was an issue that was experienced in Chile, quite a different topic, around manufacturing their own electricity. And essentially, they were getting most of their electricity from other countries, surrounding countries, because they weren't in a position to be able to manufacture their own. They couldn't produce enough coal. I think it was only 20% of their own electricity was produced in the country. So they invented this solution where they basically created these hydroelectric plants that essentially rain would come down onto these mountainous regions. It'd create this hydroelectric plant, and then they'd utilize kinetic energy to be able to feed the water back up, so it was self-sustaining. And they're now in a position over a space of about a couple of decades that they're now pretty much completely self-sufficient from electricity. So it's tough times like this when we're applying the same thought pattern to a drought, which is always going to face our country. It's just going to happen.
Yes.
And these farmers are always going to do it tough. So we need to find and continue to drive innovation. We need to find new solutions to these age-old problems that is going to really hopefully change the way of life for these farmers. A little bit more of a controversial point is just stop supporting the big supermarkets. Like, I understand you want to go and get your milk for $1.50 or $2, but you're paying $2. How much is the poor farmer getting? Because the Woolworths and Coles aren't going to compromise their
milk
profits.
Was more expensive 20 years ago. Exactly, I remember when I used to go to the corner shop, it was like $3.50 or something.
It's one of the only things that's going down in price. So go and support your local producers. Go to places where it's direct from the source, where the farmers are actually getting the money that they deserve. It's going to cost you an extra couple bucks, but it's not going to kill you.
It's so hard to swing a whole population, though. It's so.
We all want convenience. We all want those little plastic minis.
I don't know what a plastic mini is.
So there's this thing, Sam. That, you know how there's been this big debacle about plastic bags.
Yeah.
All of the big supermarkets.
I've never been to a shop in my life. I don't know.
Your poor wife. You send her to the shops. You just sit at home.
They deliver the food now.
No, mate.
The shops.
I'm a simple man. I like to go there.
I don't know.
I like the experience. I don't know what I want. I've prepared for this thing 15 minutes before. Do you think I know what I'm going to order in advance?
Yeah.
Nah, mate. I like to go there. I go, oh, I'll have a bit of that. Anyway, they got these plastic bags. So they banned the plastic bags.
Yeah.
No, and then what Coles did is they went and produced these little collectible minis
Yeah.
that are made of plastic. Why? And now they only produce a certain amount, so everyone wants them, and they're going on eBay for like $1,000.
Why don't we get some?
I'm not going to spend $1,000 for these minis.
No, in the supermarket and sell them for $1,000.
They run out, Sam. They run out.
Oh well.
These are the things you miss out when you don't go out into the world. Sam.
I only go from home to the office and back, and that's it.
But those of you who are watching, what do you think about this whole drought, the government incentives? Have you got any ideas of what can be done to hopefully help these farmers? This is just a forum for you to speak your mind. So please contribute.
Yeah, look, it's one of those things. Like, surely there's someone out there who's smart enough to be able to figure out a way to do this. I'm not smart enough, but there's other people out there who are smarter than me. Surely they can figure out a way. Let's hope they do one day.
Yep, fantastic.
All right, so
now we've got some questions.
Yeah, we've run out of articles. All right,
I'll prepare some more. I think I need more than 15 minutes next week.
17
minutes.
All right, so one of the questions we got throughout the week was, I'm about to retire and I still have a mortgage. What should I do? And this is a great question, and it's a tricky situation to be in. Essentially, if you own your home outright and you have a mortgage on an investment property, it's a little bit easier. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of it. I'll let Jackson do that in a minute. But essentially, you own your home and you have options to cash out of your investment property or use your investment property to continue servicing that debt. So I'm not hugely concerned about that. But if you have no investment properties and you have a mortgage on your home, then that can be tricky, because if you're not working, it's going to be hard for you to service that mortgage. And essentially, a lot of people don't really want to sell their home or downsize if you've got enough equity in it, or sell it and go and pay rent and live off the money that's left over plus the government income. So it's a really tricky situation. Unfortunately, once you're in that situation, you have limited options. What people should be doing, and I guess I'm assuming the people that are watching this podcast, in your lead up to when you're 65 or 67 or 70, is plan for the future. So when you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, you should be planning for that one day you're not going to work and you're going to need an income to support your lifestyle. That's what you need to do. You need to go back in time and you need to do some planning.
Yeah, there's a few ways to approach this. Now, it seems as though, I guess, you're in this situation where you've left it a little bit too late. You've tried your best. You haven't quite got to the finish line of having your home completely paid off, and that's fine. There's some ways around this. We've really got three options. We've got the option of essentially keeping the loan. Now, we've had a lot of clients that have had money in super. We've converted it to a pension. They've drawn down an income, and that income is enough for them to continue to service their loan and also live a life. Now, if you continue to service the loan but you can't live a life, then that's a problem. So we need to look at another solution. The other option is to downsize. Now, we're lucky that, I guess, talking before about the government doing things to stitch us up, they are actually trying to improve the retirement system because they want people to be self-funded. It's in every political party's best interests to ensure that as many Australians are self-funded in retirement, so they're not reliant on Centrelink. So they've created this downsizing provision. Now, if you've owned your home for more than 10 years and you sell it after 65, you've actually got the ability to contribute $300,000 if you own it in just your name, or if it's in yours and your partner's name, then you can both contribute $300,000 to superannuation without having to worry about the contribution caps. Now, we need to firstly understand that if you sell your home, you pay off the debt. How much is going to be left over? Is that going to be enough for you to be able to buy a suitable place that's going to be your forever home in retirement and still have surplus left over to put into superannuation? That's, I guess, a question that's really dependent on your situation. The third scenario, as Sam mentioned, is that you do sell your property and you essentially live on the proceeds. You could trigger that downsize provision and put money into super, maximize your tax. But ultimately, that means that you're now going to be renting for the rest of your life. And as you do get older, in your 70s or your 80s, do you really want to be at the mercy of your landlord that's going to control where you spend your golden years? So there's a few things that you need to consider.
Mm.
Ultimately, this is about understanding your options and considering all the pros and cons. We do this for clients every single day. It's about basically crunching the numbers, looking at all the pros and cons of these different scenarios, and hopefully helping you make the right decision that's going to support you. You have to have an open mind, because you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't just keep your house if you don't have the money to support the debt, or you don't have the money to be able to live the life you want. There's more to life than that. If the worst case scenario is that you've got money to live your life, but you do have to rent, so be it. But at least you're able to live the lifestyle that you desire.
And it's funny, right? Because over the past sort of 18 months or so, banks have actually become more and more stricter in this. So retiring with a debt on your home is going to become a thing of the past. By the time, we're nearly 30, by the time we're old enough to retire, there shouldn't be anyone retiring with debt on their home, because the banks essentially now, for anyone who's over 40, if you have a home loan, they want to see a written exit plan of how you're going to pay that home loan off before you hit the retirement age. So, and if you can't articulate how you're going to do that, they won't lend you the money. So they've obviously seen that this is a problem, that people are retiring in their later years with substantial debts that they can't service, and that only puts hardship on the borrower, and it's obviously no good financially for the lender either. So it's one of these things we're talking about so far in the future, but this is a young man, a young woman's game. You have to do this stuff when you're younger. You have to plan 100%. For those older times, and most people only plan for the next 30 days, and that's just, it's not good enough.
You can't do that anymore.
You know?
No, because what you're going to find is that if you continue to let this slide, you're going to get to 40 or 50 years old, and you're going to finally decide that you want to buy a property or whatnot. You don't have an exit plan. You don't have any way you're going to have it paid off for retirement, and you're just going to miss the boat.
Yeah.
So don't let that hang now. Start getting the right advice and get yourself on track.
Yeah, so that was a good one.
Cool. All right. So this is a question I actually got today. So I had a conversation with a really nice lady who's recently started a business. She basically said, I've recently started a business and I don't feel like I can justify getting a coach yet. Is now the right time, or should I wait? And this is a question I get all the time. Doesn't matter if they've just started a business. There's always an excuse. I'm coming up to my busy season. I've got my kids' ballet recital. Coming up to Christmas, whatever it is. We've always got a milestone that we're working towards that we utilize as an excuse to procrastinate in life. Now, when you're just getting started in business, this is the best time for you to be investing in your education and investing in a coaching-based relationship, because you either learn by somebody else's experience or you learn through your own experience. And would you prefer to be able to avoid all of those costly mistakes that you're going to make by yourself? Or do you want to learn from somebody who's already made the mistakes that can help you navigate them and get you to a better position faster through their experience? And this is what we do with clients every day. Like, we've made mistakes in business. We've seen people make some really expensive mistakes.
We're probably going to make some more, mate.
We're always going to make more. But we're able to pass on that wisdom through all of the things that we've experienced, all of the clients that we've coached through really difficult situations, and help them create the life that they desire. Let me give you an example. I had a client that I was working with late last year, had aggressively tried to grow their business in pursuit of their ambitions, took on a few too many staff than that they could handle. And I did some analysis for them, and I basically said that if they didn't let go a couple of staff before Christmas, and we're only a couple of weeks out for Christmas at this time, that they were going to go broke come New Year's. And with that harsh reality, they were able to make some very tough decisions that needed to be made to ensure that all of the remainder of their staff and themselves could keep a job. Because the alternative was keep the staff on, they're going to get paid for an extra couple of weeks, but the whole business will fail. Or let those few people off, save the business, and then be in a position to live and fight another day. Now, they've gone on to achieve some phenomenal things because they took the hard advice. But imagine the potential cost, not only to themselves, but to their staff, to their families, potentially generations to come, for not having that advice. So this just goes to show that the potential impact that you can have by having a good coach who's beside you that can give you the hard advice when you need it the most. And when you're just starting your business, that's when you need it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, mate. And some of the hardest people to give advice to are people who had already done really well. right? So I've done not bad since I started working 15 years ago. But if I would have had, and I had mentors along the way, but if I would have had someone consistently on my back and coaching me, teaching me the whole time, I would have done considerably better for people to, take the blinkers off me and show me things that I just didn't know. And that's the thing. And a lot of people who have done well don't see the value in having a coach, because they say, well, I've done well. Yes, but you would have done better if you had a coach. And whilst you can't go back in the past, you can look forward to the future and say, I'll probably do X in the future. But if you have someone who's supporting you, you'll probably do Y. Take the higher road and get 100%. A bit of advice. So it's
look at all the elite athletes in the world. All of them have a coach, and it's because you can always squeeze out that extra 5% that's going to set you on the right path for greatness.
Yeah, every high performer has a coach, I say.
Yep.
All right, so anyone who's watching, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them out. Jackson and I are literally sitting here waiting to answer them, so don't be shy.
I thought we were on a roll in the beginning. Davida was going. She was talking about thickness.
You wait till I get off this live Q&A. I'm going to go.
We're going to get Davida on the podcast.
I'm going to have words to Davida. I'm going to find out who she is. All right, so. A question I got this week from a fellow business owner is, what has been the biggest lesson you have learned about growing a team in your business? And this is a really important question. Every single business owner at one point or another in their business journey will find that their team is how should I put it, is one of the most important factors of the continued success of the business. All right. We've grown we're still a small company, but we've grown a team of over 10 in a relatively short period of time, in 9 months. So sometimes people come to us, fellow business owners, they want to know how we've done it. Some of the biggest lessons that I've learned is, I guess the biggest one is that you're dealing with humans. You're dealing with humans and you're not dealing with robots, and they're not going to just, if you tell a robot to do A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, a robot will do A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Humans, not that case. Sometimes a human's not in a very good mood and they'll do A, B, 2. Sometimes they're in a great mood and they'll do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But those are the things that change all the time. Do you know what I mean? So I think you have to remember that when you're a leader in your business and you've got a team, that you have to understand that we're all human. Even Jackson and I, believe it or not, are human as well, and that you have to tend to that. You know what I mean? And you have to treat everyone like they have their ups and downs like everyone else.
Yeah, I've worked in a lot of businesses. I've grown a lot of teams. I've trained a lot of people. I still learn every day. One of the most important lessons that I learned is that you sometimes have to be the one to deliver the tough love. And you need to be willing and able to give people the hard and raw feedback that's going to allow them to reach their fullest potential. Now, in some situations, the best thing that you can do for a team member is to let them go, because they might not be the right fit for your organization. Their values may not be aligned, and they may not be on the right track of what's the right path for them. I've had a number of instances where I've had to have that hard conversation with team members and let them go because it wasn't in their best interest or the best interests of the business to allow that to happen. So you can't always try to be the nice guy. You can't. Not everything is sunshine and lollipops. So therefore, if you have those tough conversations, although it may be tough in the instance, in the moment, you will find that many of those people will ultimately come back and thank you for that situation, because you allowed them to learn from that experience and go on to achieve bigger and better things. I do recall I had a situation with a staff member of mine that was continually late, wasn't really taking his role seriously, wasn't presenting himself in an acceptable manner in our type of business. And after considerable warnings, and he was a really nice guy, I really did like him, and I always liked to barrack for the underdog. It just got to a point where it was breaking point. And essentially the best thing that I could do was lay him off. And he's gone on to, he really understood and had respect for the experience, although he wasn't happy with it in the first instance, but he's gone on to do better, bigger and better things. So you are responsible for the growth of your staff. You need to invest in them, and it's important that you're able to have those tough conversations sometimes.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's probably the trickiest part of running a business. I would say everything
100%.
else is you can sort of step one, step two. Yeah, yeah. We could talk about this for hours. We could talk about this absolutely for hours, I
Marcel
reckon.
said, leverage their gifts, have values that guide. Yeah, and Marcel, you taught me something as well, is that people don't leave the organisation, they leave the leader. So I think you should also learn from the experience of when your staff choose to leave themselves. And I think that's something that it goes both ways.
Yeah, I think we're going to answer Belma's question in just a second, but I think really to be a leader, you need to want to see your team do well. Do you know what I mean? A lot of business owners want to see themselves do well with their staff and their team being second-class citizens. I think a real leader wants to see every single member of their team exceed their potential and do really well in life. So that's my last 2 cents on this topic.
Fantastic. Now, Belma's got a question here. So what is the easiest way I can go about consolidating my super? Great question, Belma.
Excellent question.
So I was talking to a client about this today. They had about 5 superannuation funds that I'd had from various careers and employers that they'd worked for, and just never got around to consolidating them. And it can sometimes be a very difficult process. So the first things first is jump onto your MyGov account and chase down all of your super funds. Now, if your tax file number has been quoted when the account was set up, it should appear on your MyGov account under the ATO section. It's not going to have the most up-to-date balance, but it'll give you your member numbers so you can at least go and do some analysis. Now, I don't advocate you just going and diving in, choosing one fund and then consolidating everything in because you like their advertisement on TV. There is a lot more to it. Superannuation is very complex, and there's typically 3 key components. There are the fees, which is typically an administration fee, an investment fee, and potentially you may also be paying an advisor fee that you may not even know about. There is the investments and its performance. Now, in a lot of things in life, not everything is the same. So you need to understand how you're investing and whether you are in a good investment that's going to support your growth for retirement. And there is the insurance. All superannuation funds typically have a default amount of insurance, and it is important that you consider your personal circumstances and the amount of risk management that you would like to have. So then you can decide how you opt in for your insurance and whether you consolidate everything. Essentially, if you do consolidate all your funds, you will forfeit any insurance that's in the funds that's being closed. So particularly if you do have any medical conditions or anything that may impede your ability to apply for new insurance, be very wary of this before you just dive in feet first. Now, what I advocate you doing, Belma, is if you've got access to my book. If you don't have my book, jump onto the Wealth Mentor community and download a copy. There is a superannuation health check form that you can call your super funds and walk through it. There's a series of questions that you need to ask, so you can actually have the ability to compare apples for apples. Not all super funds are made the same. So once you've been able to do that comparison, it should allow you to decide either from the funds that you've already got or do some further research into industry funds and other super funds that you can choose from that will allow you to make an informed and educated decision. Now, for most people, this is too hard. This is the reason why most people leave their super in all these funds. We do this for our clients every day. So if you'd like, feel free to reach out to us. We'll actually do a complimentary review. We'll help you do all the research free of charge, give you a bit of education around the kind of pros and cons, help guide you. And then if you'd like us to actually help you consolidating everything, then we can work out what the cost would be. You can fund it from your superannuation as well. And we can actually show you what the net position is that we can put you in. I'll give you an example. For that client today with the 5 superannuation funds, the cumulative fee savings as a result of us putting them into a low-cost, high-performing fund is over $75,000 between now and retirement. That's a huge amount of savings. That's essentially, if you want to live a really comfortable retirement, that's a full year of income in retirement. So it does pay to get it done. So if you want some help with it, feel free to reach out to us. More than happy to support.
To answer your question, Bilma, the easiest way to consolidate your super is to let this bloke do it.
We'll get it
I
sorted.
didn't do my own super. It's too hard even for me, and I only had 2 funds. I'll let Jackson sort it out because it is really complex. It's really time consuming. Most people get 2 hours into it and go, "This is too hard. I'll just leave it where it is." You know, I have relatives of mine who are, you know, in their 50s now who done this. And actually got around to doing it when they were in their 50s, and all their funds, except for one, was completely eroded away by fees. So that's a significant amount of money down the gurk because it's essentially too hard for most people to do. So
Exactly right.
do download the book, but if you do want a hand with it, get Jackson to do you a favour because it's too hard for us regular folk.
Yeah. I think we're going to wind it up, Sam. We've gone through some current events. We've had a few laughs with some larrikins that we've had in the comments. Now, for those of you who are watching this, once we do go offline, if you've got any comments, you've got 2 cents that you want to share on anything we've spoken about, you've got any questions, please feel free to post them. We'll get around to them and we'll talk about them next week. We'd also love to get some feedback to see if you've enjoyed the new kind of format. We're trying to keep things interesting. We want to make sure that it's valuable for you. So we'd appreciate your insights.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening. I'm not going to see you next week. Jackson's going to replace me with Gary and Sal. It's my birthday. I'm turning 30 next week. So I'm going to be... thanks, mate. Thanks, mate.
All right, everyone.
I'll see you.
We'll catch you next week.
Bye.